Most of you watching my content are past the point where you've long since understood that a deficit is required in order for weight loss to occur. But today, I want to discuss how low a deficit is too low. How do you determine that? And I want to talk about some kind of ridiculously low calorie diets that I'm seeing get popularized online lately. So let's get started. First off, how do we calculate what our maintenance calories are to begin with? There's a couple of different ways, starting with formulas like Harris-Benedict or Mifflin-St. Jeor. So if you want to get in the weeds and do a bunch of math, you can do that, or just simply calculate your body weight times 15. That generally gets you in the ballpark of, call it like 75 to 150 calories or so. Good enough for government work. All right, so body weight times 15 is a quick hand-wavy way to get what your maintenance calories are. Every journey needs a starting point. So now that we have that, how do we determine our destination and our route to get there? What's our course? This is where it begins to go off the rails for a lot of people. The first mistake is copy-pasting a set calorie diet that you see on the internet that looks good. 1,900 calories, 1,000 calories, 800 calories. It doesn't take into account your age, your gender, your body size, your activity level, your lifestyle, none of that, right? And furthermore, even if that is a relatively reasonable set number of calories for you, which most of the time it isn't, but let's just say hypothetically it is, that number is going to have to change because you are a living, breathing organism. And the amount of energy that you expend or don't expend any given day will fluctuate. And if the diet's working, your weight should be changing as well, your body size. And so therefore, your energy requirements will also change. So that's mistake number one. Don't just pick a set amount of calories and go, I'm going to run this for 8 weeks or 16 weeks or whatever. That's guaranteed diet fatigue. How I avoid this situation with myself and my clients is instead of setting a specific calorie deficit like 300 calories, 500 calories, or a specific integer value like 1,900 calories, 1,000 calories total, I instead set a goal of 0.5 to 1% of body weight lost per week. Then I track out 10-week hit points for easy math. So you're looking at 10% or 5% changes. Calculate the maintenance calories at that lower set point, thus allowing the individual to effectively scale down to their new maintenance level. Because as a smaller organism, your energy requirements will become less. So for instance, if I have a 200-pound male individual and he's trying to scale down to, I don't know, call it like 160, his first 10-week hit point, starting from 200 pounds, is going to be 180 pounds or 20 pounds, 10% of his initial starting weight lost. So his original maintenance calories at 200 pounds would have been 3,000 calories. But because our first hit point is 180 pounds, which is 10% lost from that 200 pound starting value, our target calories are going to be 180 times 15 or 2,700 calories, which is a 300 calorie, very reasonable deficit to run for the first 10 weeks. Then we rinse and repeat. So the next 10 weeks, we want to calculate 10% from 180 pounds. That's 18 pounds lost. So that's going to bring us to 162 pounds is our goal at week 20, which gives us a target maintenance calories at 20 weeks, 162 pounds of 2,430 calories. Which gives us a deficit of 270 calories. Again, very reasonable. Last thing before moving on to is not only do you not want to copy-paste random diets off the internet, but especially don't copy-paste random diets that require ancillary pharmaceutical use in order to be effective. Don't fall victim to the dream merchant. If the diet also requires some form of pharmaceutical intervention, it's going to be difficult for you to accurately extrapolate natural outcomes from this example. Now, the biology works the same, regardless of pharmaceutical intervention. The difference is drugs work. So in basic natural biology, it's very difficult to independently pull certain levers, whereas with drugs, it's very easy to do that because that's what they're for. And I hate taking shots at specific things, but that 800 calorie HCG diet is particularly egregious with claims of losing a pound a day. If you are morbidly obese and it is a medical condition, that might be a best case scenario for you. However, for most of you listening to this video with the intent to retain lean mass and just lose a couple pounds to either improve your health, look better, perform better athletically, what have you, that's the very definition of a crash diet that is going to give you worse outcomes than just continuing to do what you're doing already. Again, I'm not a doctor, so maybe there's a best case medical scenario for something like that, but for casual use and or athletic purposes, it's nonsense. Okay, moving on from there, what's a good place to kind of pump the brakes? If you use my method and for whatever reason, medical or otherwise, the weight's just not coming off fast enough, it is ill-advised, but you can increase the rate of weight loss by increasing the deficit, either with further restriction of food intake and or increasing your activity level. If you choose to do that, a good rule of thumb to kind of set a backstop against you going too low in calories is body weight times 10 when you make those maintenance calculations. So what that means is our 200-pound individual that calculated for 180 or 2,700 calories, their backstop would be 180 times 10, which would be 1,800 calories. So no lower than this value. Using that as kind of like your yellow caution tape line will keep you from going too low, so you can kind of physically accelerate and decelerate your rate of fat loss as you see fit, depending on, life circumstances. Let's say you're losing weight fast and you're getting leaner, but your strength and your speed in the gym is suffering, or your ability to play your sport is suffering. That might be a scenario where you need to pump the brakes a little bit. Conversely, let's say you have a fight or a meet or a wedding or whatever, and you have to make a certain weight or look a certain way in an abbreviated period of time, and you're just not losing weight fast enough, you can kick it into high gear briefly for a week or two and use that backstop of body weight times 10 to minimize the diet fatigue. Last thing I want to briefly touch on is specifically where the deficit's coming from: food restriction or extra activity. If you want to eat more and do more work, be advised that similar to dieting, that has diminishing returns over time. Those of you that watch my videos know I love me some conditioning, but even me, I cut it off at an hour a day. And the other thing is, if you're going to push the activity level to increase your deficit, I very strongly recommend that you increase your carbohydrate intake regardless of what your calorie number is to fuel that activity. Now, I know you don't need carbohydrates because you can make them out of anything, so calm down, carnivore, keto, zero carb people. But fatigue management is a real thing, and when you're in a calorie deficit, doing extra work, and then forcing your body to do a bunch of metabolic gymnastics to make carbs out of protein and fat, something Blade said in the first movie comes to mind. So, calorie deficits. That's how I do them. Remember, folks, if it's too big a deficit, if it's too egregious, it's not going to be sustainable, and it's going to lead to poor outcomes. So don't fall victim to the dream merchants and the scammers. Whether you do the math or not, the principles are the same. Just shave a little bit off the top and give it time. And whether you're carnivore, paleo, keto, vegan, if it fits your macros or whatever kind of diet you use, they all follow the principle of restriction. So find a form of restriction that's sustainable for you and stay in the fight. Thanks for watching.